Yo, what is going on, you guys? It is Jerry Trades back in another banger video, and on today's video I really wanted to introduce myself and share a little bit of context around a question that I'm often asked. A lot of people always ask me, Jerry, what got you into trading? And it's a very unique story, man. One that really, like, as you guys might have figured out now, not a lot of individuals know how to trade or can do it profitably, and they do it for a full-time occupation. Many individuals growing up follow traditional forms, pursuing a career in nursing, law enforcement, some pursue scientists. There's different career paths that are kind of more popular within the youth than trading. Trading is a little bit on the lower end. You don't hear too many traders, around. And really, what really started with, me and starting to get into trading was, I think we all get as an age, as a young man, where you start making, you have your first job and then that doesn't pay you too good. Then you get a better job and that starts paying you a little more money. And then you want to do smarter things with it. You start recognizing that, hey, me going out to eat with my friends every single weekend, every single weekday, going out to get drinks with, buddies, and maybe going to the casino here and there, buying clothes, left and right, and just expenses with your money that you even recognize, like growing up and maturing, that hey, like I could do better things with my money. I gotta learn how to invest or start a business. And this was that point in my life. I was like, I gotta start being smarter, hanging around these friends, doing this every weekend, going to these events. You're not really gonna get me anywhere in my future, so I have to start learning how to do something better with my money. And I had thankfully already had an existing business model that I started very young, and that helped give me the income to start practicing with other, I guess, adventures or like ventures and journeys into creating new streams of income for myself. And growing up independently, as such a young kid, not having my parents to support me, I've always been the guy to like focus on my income and make sure that I have something sustainable, so I know that I can take care of myself. At a very young age I learned, you have to learn how to take care of yourself and provide for yourself, because it could get very messed up out here. And I feel like a lot of individuals maybe growing on up face these responsibilities, and that's what really makes us mature and start realizing, this is a very serious game and we have to make something of it. The hee 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 ha 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 moments, they kind of run up dry eventually. So me acting on this, intuitive, you know I would say this intuitive feeling, understanding that hey, my life, I need to do something that I can actually live off of. And being very young, it was hard. I didn't know what career path, I didn't know what I wanted to go to college for. I always overthought, just like, hey, what am I going to dedicate my life to? I think being at a very young age, this is a difficult question to answer. Some people that I met in high school went to college, pursued certain career paths, and had later on switched careers. Buddies that shared with me their experiences, and it's a very tough spot to be so young, trying to figure out what am I going to do with life and which direction am I going to go in. And that was me. I had that same, like, I was lost, man. I didn't know exactly, this business model. I didn't want to continue in it forever. I wanted to be eventually something that made really good money, that I at least felt more passionate about, I would enjoy. You always hear as a kid, like, do what you love and you will never feel like you're working. And then do what you, if you work a job for just money, you might never be happy. Things like this are little stories that kind of got told to me, and I'm like, well, they impact on your quality of life. And every day that you wake up to create something for yourself to live off of, like, it's a pretty big decision to choose what it is you want to do for income. So it was difficult for me, finding the answer to that. I was young, just saving money, slowly washing out those negative habits for myself. And I started, just exploring social media. I remember looking at first forex trading. That was extremely complicated. Back on the MetaTrader 4 days, that was MetaTrader 5 actually, on my iPhone. I was trying to trade forex. That was a way more complicated than options. Then I got into after forex, I got into buying crypto long term, and that really kind of showed me the light of investing, as I was buying Ethereum when I was just 18 years old for like 1,200 bucks. An Ethereum, I remember owning three, and before I knew it, I had what, $3,600 invested. And when Ethereum had that run back in like 2021 to 4,300 a share or a coin, that's when I pulled out for 12,900 in profit. And all my friends around me were amazed, like, hey Jerry, how do you have 12,000? Like, what are you doing? How are you saving your money? How are you investing your money? And I just told them, like, hey, I bought Ethereum when it was at 1,200. I was buying XRP when it was at 30 cents. And I've always just kind of started stepping into investing with crypto, and I never really knew about trading. And as I dove deeper into the internet and started seeing more online resources, I was like, option trading pushed me to really pursue trading. And it was not an easy journey. A lot of the times when I was first starting, I lost a lot of money. And I think it's very important that you guys understand this, that when you're young or you're pursuing an opportunity, like, you are gonna lose, you're gonna get it wrong. You might have a little bit of doubts, you might feel maybe this isn't for me. But at the end of the day, like, it really changed my life to start making money with the market. Growing up, we were always taught to just work for money. It was always just like, I've had my first job in a food franchise. I mentioned it at Chipotle. Wasn't really the most fulfilling job, but for sure taught me how to, like, earn my money. At a very young age, I didn't have too many opportunities to myself, so I just picked up a job at my local Chipotle. After that, I started jumping into warehouses here in my local area in the Inland Empire. It's very popular to pick up a warehouse associate job and start making 25 an hour, 20 an hour, and that's way better than making 13 an hour or 16 an hour at a fast food joint. And then, that was just growing up a little bit lost, not much guidance, not much help, and new opportunities. And that's how I realized, like, a lot of us growing up live. We only know what we know, and no one really comes to show us new opportunities on how to make money. And it's funny, man, like, with option trading, like I said, I was only taught to trade my time for money. I was never taught, trade money for more money. That's the art of investing. Trading is the art of investing, just on a different, time frame, a much more shorter time horizon on the reward that you're going to be receiving, and also a much higher risk. So it took time to adapt to that, but I honestly can tell you that it changed my life for the better, because it wasn't until I made my first, $200 in 1 hour, and I had to then go to work for 8 hours to only make $160. That's what really changed my life, seeing how quick I can make the money. That changed my life. It showed me that investing this capital can make me this much in this amount of time, compared to me exchanging my time of my life for this much money. Blew my mind. And it started really hitting me when I would make more trading than I would at my job, and I would be like, what am I doing? And I want to really, like, add a little bit of advice here for any individual. I didn't just quit my job because I was making more than trading, but I started using more of my money from my job to focus on trading. And eventually, with trading and on top of the business model that I had running, which is very important you guys understand this, having a business model, it's going to be crucial. Why? If don't, let me rephrase this, not just a business model. It's either going to be a job or a business model, or a job and a business model that's going to help you fund your trading. My main goal here that I'm trying to convey is you guys have to have a lifeline of income, something that you can consistently rely on month to month, as like, hey, I'm gonna make $2,000, $3,000 a month. I can pay my bills with that $3,000 and still have $700 or $1,000 left after my bills to do whatever I want with it. I'm gonna go learn how to trade with it. I'm gonna, buy some contracts here, some calls here, some puts here. Hey, I might lose 30% here. I might learn a little bit more how to manage my portfolio, or I might choose to buy some shares and build myself up over the long term, or now expose myself to buying crypto or investing in assets. So you need a lifeline, man. And for me, that business that I was running at a very young age was my lifeline. The job, unfortunately, the business was able to provide more than the job, and now trading was able to provide more than the job. So I went ahead and pursued trading. And really, like, it was just how quickly I could make money. That went against everything that my parents had ever taught me about. The only way of making money is to have a higher education, very successful business. Like, they're perception of how to create income for yourselves, like it's very traditional, very, and just following our like our cultural beliefs. You know, we really didn't have anyone in our family growing up teaching us how to invest or even trade. And that's when I always, like, as a kid growing up, like I knew there was people that were rich, like really rich. When I was high school, with my friends, like I would go, you know, after school, we'd all, you know, go enjoy some time and, you know, drive around really nice parts of the neighborhood up north towards the hills, and we look at these amazing houses, homes, you know, easily valued at $1 million, amazing properties. You know, we used to go to exotic car dealerships here in Southern California and just look at, you know, $200,000, $300,000 cars and ask ourselves, like, how do we get this? Like, there's no way that these exist because no one can get them. And growing up in my family, there was no one to tell me, like, yeah, you can do it, yeah, this is possible, or even show me, you know, that it exists. So it's very important that, like, you start understanding what it is that you're really capable of and exposing yourself to more and actually believing in it, because that was really what drove me to now question what I was taught, how my parents brought me up, and pursue this path in hopes of finding the answer, that there's something else other than going to school for a high paying career, or, you know, winning the lottery, or going to the casino to win a large amount of money, or, you know, just trading so much time of your life for, you know, little money, or buying a house. You know, my parents think that buying a property, you're gonna buy that and you're gonna be rich. Like, you know, unfortunately, it's not how it works anymore. There's a lot of new investments, assets, tools, and opportunities that, unfortunately, like many of us in these environments, especially if you're not using social media for the right reasons, or your environment or individuals that you're surrounding yourself with in terms of your network aren't providing resources or opportunities to you, you're going to be very limited, and you're kind of going to find yourself stuck in this loop of only being limited to the resources of income that you currently have. And then you become dependent on those income resources. Once you become dependent, now your mind is too cluttered thinking about your bills, your rent, you know, your car insurance, your car payment, your food. Money starts to stress your mind. The necessity for money begins to stress your mind. And now your creativity, your stress on your mind goes up here, and your creativity for new ideas and income streams and businesses and that exertion after work, it's going to fall way down here. It's going to be much harder for you to believe and be creative. And this is something that I also wanted to make a video on, but me experiencing this, I know how it works, and that's why I make my content, to try to help people, you know. Before, like, trading, man, like, I'm no different, you know. I grew up, like I told you guys, my parents were in roofing. That was our main industry. My uncle owns a very big company and has been, you know, somewhat successful, but that line of work, that industry is very traditional, very hard working, you know, get down and dirty, and that's the only way we can make income. Nothing compared to trading. And I grew up working construction, as you guys can see here. I was working, man, like really, you know, sweating out there, working with, man, like immigrants. Those guys were the funniest guys ever, like very humble, amazing people. I had an amazing time, great laughs. I loved the line of work, but at the end of the day, I just wanted to be something more. I wanted to have something to show for, make my parents proud, that they knew I wasn't just, you know, gonna be a laborer or a chalan, or, you know, some little, you know, side worker or general laborer. You know, like, I had something that I can be proud of, that they could be proud of, that I can grow and use as a way to make myself better and provide for, hopefully one day, my own kids, my little brothers, and my parents, other than just depending on a source of income that isn't in my control. And that's important that you guys understand that, you know, like, when you're young, bro, like, your goal is to, yes, use your resources to create income, but always believe in creating some sort of opportunity that you have control over. You know, it's important that as a young man, you start looking for control over your money. You start looking for control over your time. You start looking for control over where you live, and you start looking for control of when you wake up and go to sleep. These are some very important pieces to have control over, to feel at your best and live a fulfilling life and spark creativity and expose yourself to these new ideas. Some people, you know, like, I feel like they don't observe life through this lens, and they get stuck in just their brain adapting to this reality, and it's very hard to now rewire that brain to imagine another reality. And but this is why I come back to, like, I always knew that there was people that were rich, and I knew that they did something that no one else did for money, and I just had to find out what it was. Trading options is extremely lucrative. You know, I once had one of my students take $2,000 from his fast food check and turn it into 20 grand. This is a video of it right here. Boy literally turned 2,000 into 20,000. Let's see how he's feeling today, man. This is unreal.
Shit.
Oh, what you mean? You just made 18 bands.
Yeah, I know.
What the fuck? That shit don't make you happy, bro? Here, as you guys can see, like, you know, look at it. The guy turned $2,000 into 20 grand in one day. I don't know any job that's gonna pay an individual $18,000 for about 2-3 hours of work. That's what trading did. That's what trading was able to not just do for myself when I made $116,000 right here.
No, man, but you gotta keep going. What am I gonna do, quit? That's not an option. You gotta keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it. You make it work for you.
It's just me, myself, and I. Solo ride until I die.
Similar to that same time that it took him to flip the Apple trade, when I made that amount of income in 3 hours, that blew my mind. Because where I'm from, it takes a whole year to get there. It takes, you know, if you're lucky, a whole year to get there. I made it in 3 hours. That completely shifted my whole paradigm of thinking and how I understood the world was operating. And that's why I told you I uncovered a rock that I honestly believe that the rich hide, and, you know, schools keep from us to get too in depth on that side of the story. But I do believe that there's certain opportunities that are harder to find because of what our environments and the resources we have at birth or when we're growing in our upbringing give us, and that's how we develop our perspectives and realities on life. And it's going to be a truly defining moment in your life once you start learning these new opportunities, these new realities, and these new forms of income that maybe at first are going to be very scary, very complicated. When I was first learning all of this, trust me, I lost shitloads of money. I lost my checks back to back to back, and then I started making money. I started making it make sense. I started studying. I started watching YouTube videos, and now years later, like, damn, like, I wouldn't exchange it for nothing else in my life. And you know, I have a lot more videos to share with you guys of like how trading helped me create a business that, you know, changed my life and gave me purpose. How I started battling this chasing money and now actually fulfilling a purpose. You know, having a purpose really beats anything else. It beats having any money, and that's important that you guys understand as soon as you're young, because once you have that purpose, now you wake up every morning on a mission, and there's nothing else better than that. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope it was a little bit informative and a good story time for you guys to learn about how trading changed my life. But I hope you guys enjoyed that video and, you know, get to be able to reflect a little bit on it and see, you know, maybe if this opportunity is something that inspires you to maybe start getting your feet wet in the art of trading or pursuing your own idea, your own belief, whatever it is you have in your head, go for it, bro. It doesn't have to be trading. It could be that detailing business. It could be that window cleaning business. It could be that curb painting business. It could be any business, your electrician, side jobs, anything. Go all in on it, because I promise you, no matter what, at the end of your life, those opportunities are going to be the ones that you're most thankful for taking and believing in, more importantly, yourself. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and I wish all of you guys the very best. Thank you all for supporting and watching the channel. Jerry Trades the SoCal Trading Group, over and out.